All right, Rishi, both you and I spent a crazy amount of time thinking about CRO, buyer psychology, customer research, and topics like that.
Yep.
And one of the most common topics that come up with in a lot of work I do with clients is that customer reviews help people convert.
Yep.
Okay. They are almost like a conversion augmentation element, right? Now, the question I have is where do you see the future of customer reviews? Because I know you think about this.
I do think about it a lot. And you and I have spoken about this a few times, and we might one day soon do an episode dedicated to customer reviews where we'll actually pull up examples of all the different flavors of reviews, because there are some interesting experiments that have been done. But for this video, I just want to talk about it from a philosophical point of view. I think there's a lot of value in just understanding the importance of reviews. I think a lot of times brands look at reviews as a checkbox item, as a necessary feature on their product page. And so they are really saying, should we go with Yotpo, should we go with reviews.io, or should we go with something else? And I kind of am looking at it from a business perspective and saying those tools are not relevant. What's relevant is understanding the place of reviews in your conversion journey. And reviews matter a lot, primarily because consumers don't trust brands, right? And you can say whatever you want in your description, a certain percentage of them are, and I'm a copywriter. So, I mean, this is my livelihood is the product description, but even I recognize that there's going to be a very large percentage of people that the way they work is, and I've actually spoken to people where they've described their behavior. I've seen user session recordings, the same pattern plays out. They actually first scroll down to the reviews and they look at the reviews. And if the product is rejected at the review stage, they don't even go to your description. They go to the description once they've concluded that, hey, enough people believe in what you're saying. That does not include you, because so that right there should show you the importance of reviews. Now, there are two levers that one has to play with, I think, when one can play with when it comes to reviews. One is like, how do we get people to read more reviews? If people are reading one review on average or two reviews on average, that might not be enough context for them to have the confidence to pull the trigger. How do we get them to read twice as many reviews, thrice as many reviews? So that's a question you should think about. Um, but I want to focus in today and just talk about the fact that I'm not convinced that there's been enough innovation in reviews in general. So this is a problem on two fronts. There's issue on the front end side where we display reviews, but I think there's issue also on the back end side when we collect reviews. So on the front end side, we have reviews where you can filter by newest review, most critical review, all of those kind of filters. That's fine. That's basic innovation. I don't think it's the end of the world. But I don't think I don't think it's anything that special. Sometimes they even have a search box. Amazon has, other review sites also have, which I think is a very useful tool, because if I'm uh, on a product where I have a specific problem and I want to find other reviews of people that have that exact problem, to be able to find those reviews, I think is quite useful. We also have Q&A, which I think is a very useful, I mean, it's kind of clubbed with reviews. Typically, it's a feature of the reviews interface, which I think is a very powerful tool that most brands don't leverage properly. In fact, I think that we should have a separate episode where we talk about Q&A, because I think it can be used very effectively. But let's go back to reviews. There isn't much that, well, sometimes they even have a filter that shows reviews with photos and with videos. That's it. So that's the range. I'm not convinced that this is enough innovation on the front end. Now let's talk about the problem on the back end. And I think the problem on the back end is even more important. The problem on the back end is that we have a template email that we send out to people that gets triggered after a certain amount of time. And we're basically saying, what do you think about the product? Now, when you ask a shit question, you typically will get bad responses. People will say, hey, product is fine. Product is good. Shipping was fast. It's what I expected. There is no real meaning in this review for someone who's looking to buy the product. And these reviews will will overwhelm the review count because most people are responding this way. So I think that needs to be rectified. So one of the things that I've been really thinking about is this idea, and I'll show you for the people that are watching on YouTube, I'll show an image. My vision, and it's a very raw prototype, and I plan to eventually kind of work with Lorenzo and kind of come up with the proper model for this. But my vision is conceptually is, first of all, we should be asking different types of customers different types of questions. So for example, I would send, instead of sending the same template email to everyone who buys the product, I would send some people a question that says, what one feature did you like the best, for example? What one feature surprised you the most? What did you, similar to the Lorenzo's like review, customer research kind of questions, I'll say something like, what was something that you thought you wouldn't like, but end up liking a lot? Because a lot of times people might come to a product looking for a very specific benefit, but if they can read reviews and say that, oh, there are all these other benefits that I didn't even know about, that is also a conversion catalyst. So I'm going to show, hopefully this will make sense. I'm going to just share my screen real quick, and I'm going to just show an article, but I won't talk about this article. I'm just going to talk about this image over here. So this has been one of my fantasy projects, is to construct an infographic on the product page. Because my other problem with reviews, Lorenzo, is that a lot of websites have 7,000 reviews. Well, that becomes difficult for me to navigate. So my idea was, what if we could ask a very strategic set of questions to people who respond, who bought the product, and then kind of on the front end, and this is just a theoretical concept, in the front end, construct an infographic on the product page, maybe even above the review section. So they can still skip this and read the reviews they want to, but this gives a good snapshot. So it says real-time feedback from past product, and this is the name of the product, customers. So square bracket, just consider that to be a variable. And then it says last updated, blah, 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 so and so time. So it shows that this is current. Then it says we asked 3,000 random customers series questions. Were you skeptical before buying? Now, this is a really important question because, my job is to bust skepticism. So when you see a lot of people saying yes, if you are skeptical, you're like, oh, anyway. The other one was, what surprised you the most? And I list all the features. And so we've asked them what features surprised them the most. And then on the back end, on the front end, we are plotting it as a poll or something, right? Have you tried products like ours in the past? Yes, no, because this is a useful. If yes, sorry?
I love that question.
Awesome. If yes, how did they fall short? So again, how much time did you spend researching the product? Wish you pulled the trigger. So this is the average amount of time people spend researching. And then we ask them, do you wish you had bought it earlier? And the reason, this is also a very sneaky question, because someone might say, oh, shucks, I don't want to spend 3 weeks researching this when most people regretted the fact that, they didn't buy it earlier. Anyway, it's a very theoretical concept, and I'm not suggesting that this is the final version of it, but I think it's kind of like a cool experiment. So anyway, this is one version of the future of reviews. I want to get your thoughts. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so the reason why this is genius, there's 2 reasons why this is genius. First of all, it helps the user, right? Right? So it's like, oh, we're helping the user. So like, oh my God, this is a new thing. Companies trying to help users make a decision. That's one reason why I'm a big fan of it. The second reason is because now, all of the sudden, reviews become customer insights that a junkie like myself about qualitative data will love to mine and figure out and understand more about that, so I can leverage those insights for CRO purposes and other purposes. So I think this is a genius idea. I specifically like the question where you asked about their previous experience, right? Because that's super important, because unless you're selling a product that nobody has ever, it's actually very difficult to sell a product where there is not a previous solution to that problem that they're trying to solve. But what I really like about that is that based on what type of experience you had before, right? Your perspective of the product is different, right? If I, for example, have pimples, right, and I'm actually I'm challenging with I have challenges with acne, right?
Mhm.
And I've tried 100 different acne products before. I have a completely different experience than you, that you just experienced acne for the first time 5 days ago, right? And to me, this is a super powerful question. So really love those ideas.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I also think it's useful because what we've done is essentially we've summarized all the reviews that we got into a living infographic or a dashboard. It's like a dashboard, right?
Totally.
But we'll still have reviews on the page, and this is, like I said, just one version. So, guys, I'm not suggesting that this is the final version, but I'm surprised that this version, something like this, doesn't already exist. So I think the point here is that there's tons of room for innovation. And I think the key thing, the takeaway for you guys who's watching this video is forget about this experimental idea that we're talking about. But what you can control are the questions you're asking in reviews. Please ask more specific review questions. One of the questions that actually we didn't even include in this infographic, but is a question that I would love to ask, is asking people a question after they've used the product for a year. So at the 1 year mark, you send them an email that you say, you've had this product for a year, tell us about your experience, and you label that review as, in the thing, you say review by people that have used it for 1 whole year. I really care about their reviews more than I care about someone who wrote a review on day 5 of getting the product, right? So I think there's tons of room for innovation. So that was the idea, but let us know
Loved it.
what you think. And if you like this kind of stuff, this kind of like, these are all experimental concepts. A lot of times we'll talk about things that also exist. So it's a mix and match of things. Lorenzo and I just talk about this kind of stuff. Subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment, tell us what you think about it. Tell us if you've got an example of a product page that has reviews that are different. We'd love to study it and feature it on our show. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye.